Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3, Episode 28 through 30. The funny thing about this picture now is that we have Kimberly on this picture, and actually, it should be Kat. We have Kat now in the show as the Ninja Ranger. And so I'm like, okay, so we finally gotten to the transitional point where Kimberly gives up her powers to Kat, and they even showcase that on the intro. I'm like, oh, okay, so we've gotten to that part of the story. Oh, okay. And she's already become a villain, and whichever. I would have loved to even cover the time where Kat becomes a villain and all of that stuff, because it's just kind of like another Evil Ranger thing. But it's a Evil Ranger thing where it's just kind of like it's not as like in your face as Tommy was. It's kind of like maniacally planning in the background kind of thing. So we have, of course, this be the storyline of Master Vile and the metallic armor. Man, once you just activate a new thing in this show, man, you just gotta use it a lot. Because this metallic armor gets used quite often in these 3 episodes. I was like, man, how many times can they figure out a way to use the metallic armor? So, we have a villain throughout all these episodes, because this villain is very powerful, to the point of it having the ability to drain energy from the Power Rangers as well as their Zords, and as well as seemingly anybody that is connected to the Power Rangers, like Ninjor. So we have the blue globber that is to be kind of like the DC comic book character Parasite that would normally fight off Superman. And Parasite would also like drain the power of certain people, or he would go on and just have the power kick in of whoever is nearby him. And so they would have to take like a whole massive team of superheroes to try to take Parasite down. So Blue Globber is like that, where it's like you really have to go on and get a massive amount of power just to knock this thing down a notch. So I gotta state that I feel, to me, I haven't watched all the episodes yet, I will admit that, but I feel that so far, out of all of the ones that I've seen the White Power Ranger in, I think that this is my favorite, like, White Power Ranger episodes, because I want to count, like, the whole story arc as, like, one thing. Because once you get to that cave, I was like, man, this is just like Luke going into the one tree, or the one thing, and he is to fight off his dad, and then he finds out that he's just fighting himself. I was like, oh, okay, alright. So, like, Tommy goes into the cave of deception, and you would think that title alone would probably just think that, one, they must really love saying the word deception, because I had gone on throughout a number of these episodes and already had a wizard of deception. Now I have a cave of deception. How many deceptions do we need to have here? Could there be like another kind of like an object of deception? Here's our object of deception that I have right here. Because we've ran out of things to decept people with, so we might as well just have an object now. So, but Tommy goes into the cave, and he's seeing all these things. He's seeing all these people, and then Tommy has to go on and get, weirdly enough, the Zeo crystals that are not underneath a Krispy Kreme, but instead are right underneath the villains themselves in the Moon Palace. Moon Palace. And this is the Lord Zed version of the Moon Palace. And so I finally know that name because I looked it up, because I was like, okay, like, what is the name of this place? And they call it a palace, and I was like, well, that's not good enough now, is it? I can call it a palace all the live long, but that's not good enough. So evidently it's called the Moon Palace, because the Rita like looking thing was the Moon Palace, but then like Zed like moved in, and then all of a sudden he had a way bigger Moon Palace. So like they all just decided like, well, hey, let's go over there to the Zed place because that's bigger. Because somebody's moving on up to the east side, if you know what I mean, east side of the moon. So yeah, so we also, by the end of this story arc, we have a bunch of monsters, more Easter eggs for everybody, and we have monsters dancing yet again, because whenever it seems that the Power Rangers are starting to get really just clocked, we have the monsters who are doing the Congo or doing the boogie. I don't know. They're like, they're going on and doing like the weirdest, goofiest, like, hey, we're doing a lot of this now, and we're doing a lot of pointing, and that's how we're dancing. Uh, we also have Master Vile, who is to appear upon here because it's Master Vile in the metallic armor, and we end up showing up a planet called N51, not Area 51, N51, and I was like, cool, if only we could go on and do more space stuff beyond just going into Power Rangers in space, where I don't even think in Power Rangers in space they went into space all that often. We had the KO-35 mission and stuff like that, but I really don't think they went into space enough in that show. I would have loved for us to have like almost like a Star Trek Next Generation kind of thing for a Power Ranger season, when you would just have them hopping to a lot of other planets because people just need help. And we could have the Power Rangers end up just being like Green Lantern, where like Green Lantern has to cover like a galaxy or has to go on and help other people from other planets, and like we can almost have this like almost be like a Star Trek Next Generation kind of thing. But still, with that said, like, how much power do you really think that the command center has to like teleport all these people to all these planets? But anyways, other than that, I think I need to just get on to talk about the spoilers, because I really think that there's a lot for me to go on and have to say. So hopefully let me know in the comments below how you felt about Master Vile and the metallic armor. The Power Rangers sparkled before Twilight did, and you can almost kind of tell that like they just took their like suit part and just like glittered it, but didn't do anything with like the helmets. So they're just like, hey man, like we're gonna try and save as much money as we can to not have to sparkle like the whole outfit, because we end up having, of course, at some point where when Rocky, Atom, and Aisha came in, they had to go on and they had to refit into Jason, Trini, and Zach's same same morphing suits. So there, of course, were certain times where like the suits would had to go on and have padding in them, because like a other ranger from before was more muscular and this person was skinny, or so on and so forth. They had to have like weird, goofy adjustments for these suits because they didn't want to go on and give them new suits. And so it's like, well, of course, because when thinking about it, like Flash would go on and have very limited number of suits for its show. Plus, also when thinking about it, like probably half the time, like the Rangers, the actual Rangers, probably aren't in the actual suits a lot of the time. But I don't know. Like, I would have to go on and ask the cast that. It's like, well, like, how much per episode are you actually in the suits? So, like, oh no, throughout every episode, all the time, that's us. But then it's like, but don't give the stuntman any credit. So, so with that said, let's go on to that double five. It's about that time again to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time to spoil these episodes. I apologize for the last episode being so long. It was like almost an hour and a half. Really, I didn't mean for it to be that long. I was hoping that every one of these would just be an hour in length. But there's sometimes where I just keep talking, and there's a lot to comb through. So, I'm sorry. I'm also, before I tried to do reviews today, I was doing a kind of side project on top of doing this. So that took a while, like longer than I thought it was going to be, because I was like, man, this is really like delicate, and I want to try to get the way of it right, and so on and so forth. And I was trying to figure out how to look at it in the best way. But anyways, so maybe you might see that soon, depending on whether I want to keep tweaking it or adjusting it, and also have to do some adjustments on another thing as well. Being very vague here, none of this matters. Let's go on into spoilers. So, we have in the beginning of this episode, we find all the Power Rangers and Bulk and Skull and Lieutenant Stone that are all going out because of the police force fundraising a horse track to do a National Appreciation Week. So Aisha is telling Stone how she appreciates how they were to go on and have the officers go and do this whole horse riding thing, as the Rangers are now riding off in these horses. So we all of a sudden, while the Power Rangers are kind of going on, they realize all of a sudden there is this weird shake, this weird earthquake, it seems, or this just rumble that made no sense. So we of course have the Power Rangers who are like, okay, what is this about? So they rush to a disclosed area, and we actually have Billy stating, it's like, well, hopefully Bulk and Skull and Stone like don't realize that we're gone for very long, because we might be gone for a very long time. So we of course have the Power Rangers realizing that they need to go to the command center, and we weirdly enough find out that the command center has lost all its power. Alpha 5 is just kind of just off to the side, just kind of and we have Zordon, who isn't even there. So we have at the Moon Palace, yeah, that's right, the Moon Palace. It's not the Moon Palace, it's actually this. The Moon Palace was the Rita place, but yeah, there's also another Moon Palace. Anyways, Krispy Kreme, Lord Zed's Moon Palace is not. Because guess where the Zeo crystals are? Anyways, so if I hadn't stated that anywhere, I don't know what I've stated through already. So we have the Power Rangers, or no. We have Zed, Rita, Rito, and Goldar and everybody, Squat, all these people, they're realizing that they have company, and so Master Vile appears, and Rita is to be the only one who realizes who this is. So back into the command center. So we have Alpha and Zordon coming back into power, and so they are to mention about the interruption, and so they go into the viewing globe to showcase Master Vile, and we have Rocky who's like, Rita has a father? And I was like, was that even a question? Of course Rita has a daddy. Unless she was just birthed through some weird, goofy egg way of doing things. But yeah, Rita has a daddy. So I thought that was funny. So, because of this threat, we have Zordon, who of course goes and tells the Rangers that they had set up the metallic armor, and when they need to go on and they need to use this, they need to shout out metallic armor power up. But to only use it for emergencies, or just quite often throughout these episodes because you really are going to need it, and that's why you have to go on and have them do Power Ranger Zeo, because frickin' they use the metallic armor way too often, and Zordon and Alpha just are taking too much of the strain of of having that metallic armor being way too often used in 3 episodes. So we, after that, are now to go on and have the characters know about no. Tommy has to go on and mention about the Falcon Zord going missing and Ninja going missing. And so we have both Tommy and we have both Kat who are to leave to go on underneath the Moon Palace, because that of course is where the Zeo crystals are, and come to find out, N51, the Cave of Deception, was the place that had the Zeo crystals. Or no. N51 had taken the Zeo crystals and put it into the Cave of Deception, but come to find out, the Cave of Deception is located right underneath Lord Zed's Moon Palace. And supposedly only good can go on to get the Zeo crystals, because evil cannot go on and get this. So we have Tommy and Kat who leave to go into the Moon Crystal, or go into the Moon Palace, I mean. So we have Bulk and Skull and Lieutenant Stone that are having a suspicion because there is like an eclipse going. It's like forever night. And so Stone is having this weird vibe that something horrible is about to go down. So we have Stone who is asking, like, well, who's gonna volunteer to go and get help? Because, like, I have a feeling that we're gonna need it. And so the horses kind of shove both Bulk and Skull, and so they go on to have to forcibly volunteer. So we have. Let me correct myself. Also, I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with having Tommy and Kat leaving to go off to the Moon Palace. That happens a little bit later in this episode, so I got a little bit ahead of myself on that. But everything else seems in my brain to be correct. So because we have to have like the Power Rangers face off against the Tengu Warriors. We have to have that happen, and then Tommy and then Kat go off to the Moon Palace. My bad, my mistake. So we have Master Vile that goes on to be talking about Ninjor, and Rito has the jar that Ninjor is in, and he breaks the jar, and all of a sudden now Ninjor is just kind of running all over the place, and they're trying to like jump and get it, and so we go on to have like both Squat and Babu trying to run, trying to get Ninjor. Ninjor like goes to full size, and then he gets the heck out of there. And so Ninjor comes to the Power Rangers in the command center and is like telling them about the new plan or the new threat. So we have Master Vile that goes on and gives Zed and Rita this sack for the Tengu Warriors to kind of power them up. So then we go on and talk to the Power Rangers about N51, the Cave Deception, and so we have Master Vile go into his space skull to bizarrely like puke out this egg and crack it open and have him make this monster called the Blue Globber. So we of course have Vile that goes on and talks to Rito and is mentions like, well, hey, now you're going to see how things really get done compared to the prior Rita and Zed, who just failed numerous times. And it's kind of funny how Vile goes on and like justifies when he fails by the end of this story arc that it's like, well, hey, like Rita and Zed have failed numerous times. I failed a whole once, so cut me some slack. So we have the Power Rangers that are finally like getting out of the community command center because they realize that the Tengu Warriors are attacking Bulk and Skull with all the horses. So the Power Rangers are not taking any risks. They're morphing. So let me back this up a little bit so I keep not smacking into it. So we have the Rangers go on and morph, and they go on to face off against the Tengu Warriors. We also had Master Vile that reconfirmed to Rita and Zed that, like, well, hey, like, you guys definitely gave the Tengu Warriors, like, this sack, right? And they're like, yeah, and we show, like, Squad who's tossing them this bag. So we have the Power Rangers morphed, because normally they would just need to be in their, like, their ninja powers. It seems that even morphed, the Power Rangers are really having a tough time facing off against the Tengu Warriors. So we have Tommy desperately calling for Ninjor, and so when Ninjor starts coming on down, we all of a sudden have Ninjor that is completely incapacitated by the Glue Globber, and the Glue Globber starts to absorb Ninjor's power, and we then have Ninjor who realizes, like, well, like, I'll just become bigger, and like that'll just break off the blue globber from my back. But no, the blue globber just stays onto Ninjor and just gets bigger also, and just continues to absorb Ninjor's power to the point of Ninjor going on to uh, be sent to Master Vile, and he's all chained up. So we then go to have the Power Rangers need to get into their metallic armor to face off against the Tengu Warriors, and that's when, of course, they start beating all the Tengu Warriors, and so they decide to go back to the command center, and that's when we have Tommy and Kat leave for the Cave of Deception. And so Billy is to state how they had to use the metallic armor against the Tengu Warriors, and so Tommy and Kat go to the Cave of Deception. Billy is to mention how he is to have temporarily this imitation device of the Falcon Zord for some of the Zords, because they might need to go on and need to Zord up soon. So we have the blue globber that goes on to become big and is starting to destroy the city, and we have the Power Rangers who are in the Shogun Megazord, and Billy is to state, it's like, okay, we also have the Ninja Megazord, and we're going to have both of these simultaneously at the same time. So we have Kat, we have Tommy in the Moon Palace, and Kat has this strategy that she's going to go on and give herself over to Rita and Zed to say, like, hey, I want to be evil again. And so, like, it's really kind of interesting how we have the two Rangers go to the Moon Palace, and technically both of them had at some point been evil. And I was like, wow, that's kind of an interesting story here. So while Tommy is just standing around, it seems, that's the most annoying thing that I find about this, is we have Kat who kind of goes off to talk to both Rita and Zed, and Tommy just standing there. Like, oh yeah, I think I have all the time in the world. I don't know where this Cave of Deception thing is. I have to have Zordon tell me exactly where it is. But so, we have Kat that goes on and talks to Rita and Zed and states, like, hey guys, like, maybe a Power Ranger is going to go on and help you out. And Rita and Zed are like, who, what now? And then they realize that Kat's there, and they're like, ah. So we have Tommy who's like, oh no. So, like, that's how the first episode ends. So we... Oh, boy. I am so confused. So we now go into the next episode. And so we have the Shogun Megazord going up against the Blue Globber, and that quickly loses power. And so I think the Rangers have to jump into the Ninja Zord to see if that works. And it seems that the Ninja Megazord had also lost power. So we go on to have Kat back at the Moon Palace. That is to go through the Reviver. Reviver? Reviver. It's said weird. So this is some weird mechanism that goes on and is to go from making somebody good to completely evil. And when you go on and go through this whole entire process of this thing, nothing can ever reverse it. So why didn't they go on and have this machine like available when like Tommy was becoming some evil? You know what? They could have had him been Lord Draken like that. But no. So we have Tommy who is to communicate to Zordon and say like, okay, like since now Cat is going through this machine, like I think I should go on and ask Zordon where the heck the Cave of Deception is. So we go on to have Tommy who's to figure out where this cave is, and we have Rita and we have Zed who's telling Cat that they kind of sense another Power Ranger here, and they're possibly thinking that it might be the White Power Ranger. And Cat, of course, is to kind of be talking some smack to Rita and Zed, and so Rita and Zed state that it's like, well, hey, if Tommy is really going for the Zeo crystals, like it's not quite confirmed whether or not Tommy will be able to survive touching the crystals, because he at one point was an evil Power Ranger, and so more than likely the Zeo crystals could take that into account. And Cat, of course, is trying to persuade Rita and Zed that it's like, oh no, like he'll get it, he'll get the crystals. So we have Tommy that makes it in front of the Cave of Deception, and you would have thought that like Zed would have gone on and just be like, hey, let's send some putties down there, let's send all these monsters, let's have like Squat and Babu finally like earn their living. Let's have them do something. Like, isn't there a bunch of just monsters just kind of waiting in the wings? Like, we could just have Finster just kind of quickly make a monster and just chuck it out there, and Tommy be like, whoa, why not just do that? Like, give somebody some work. But so, once Tommy makes it to the opening of this Cave Deception, which is kind of very hard to open, because he's like, hey, like, how do I get in cave? How? So, all of a sudden, Tommy's met by Goldar. It's like, yeah, like, the ever fought between both Goldar and Tommy, the iconic, like, fight between the two of them, which I have yet to go on and cover that episode, because I think I've already gone on and covered that at some point. I don't know, but I'll probably have to look it up, because that episode is to be like the big episode. Even Tommy would go on and talk about his fight with Goldar, but I think a lot of times, like in all of the Mighty Morphin times, everybody goes on and says like their big key fights were always with Goldar. So like that is interesting how like Goldar is to be like the big heavy hitter character that has kind of fought all the Rangers, and they're stating like, yeah, like my main story was with Goldar, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of weird. But so we have Tommy that starts fighting Goldar, and then all of a sudden Goldar disappears, and Tommy's like, okay, what was that all about? So Tommy then goes into the cave and is to be met by all the Power Rangers, and so, or with the exclusion of the pink one. So we have Billy, Rocky, Aisha, and Billy that are all coming to Tommy, and they're telling him, like Aisha stating that Cat is fully evil, that Billy is the state that, or Adam is the state that they lost. Billy is to go on and mention that, like stuff about like their families, and we have Rocky that's to state to like Tommy. It's like, hey, Tommy, just give up. Like, just come on. So we have Tommy that can't believe what's coming from everyone's mouth, so he chooses not to believe it. And then all of a sudden, the green Power Ranger comes in, and he's like, yeah, like, they're working for Master Vile, and all of a sudden they just disappear. And I was like, this is awesome! We have the green Power Ranger that just comes back as an illusion. This is great. So we then have Tommy that turns around to see both Rita and Kat, and Kat is stating, it's like, yes, Tommy, I'm fully evil. And I'm fully evil, Tommy, fully. That's not exactly what she says, but she's evil. She states that she's evil. Rita talks him smack, and Tommy is to realize that, again, this is all a mirage. This is all an illusion. So we now have the Ninja Zord going up against Globber, and we go on to really just have like the Ninja Zord, like it doesn't really have much power, and it's probably going to fail because like these Zords really aren't running on like solar power or anything. You would have thought they would have figured out some way of like, hey, like while these Zords are fighting, or while the Rangers are fighting, like come up with a way to like conserve like energy somehow, like some kind of like solar panels on the Zords, so that way there's always energy coming into the Zords. Like I'm trying to get like these Zords to be more eco-friendly, but it's not working out. So we then have Tommy who goes back into the cave and is nearby the Zeo crystals, and we have Kat who appears, and Tommy's like, oh, are you just another deception? Are you another illusion? Kat's like, no, I'm here. I'm talking to you. Like, I slipped by. Like, I'm fine now. And Tommy's like, ah. And so Kat points out that Master Vile is going for the Zeo crystals, and Tommy's like, well, it doesn't really seem like he's walking next to them, so maybe this is just another illusion. And so when Master Vile starts walking and he disappears, Tommy's like, aha! Finally, I got one right for once. And Kat is to watch as Tommy is getting these crystals, and Kat is convincing Tommy not to, because of course he was evil once. So when all of a sudden Tommy is touching onto the crystals, we get this flashback of every time that Tommy was whipping Power Rangers' butts full sail and was taking them all down, and Tommy, wouldn't it be cool if they did zombie Power Rangers? Oh my god, would that be great. Just like if you guys ever saw like Marvel Zombies, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if they did like Power Rangers zombies? And I'm sure they probably did in some episode somewhere. But to really just see like the Power Rangers like have this kind of broken part of their whole body, and you would see like through like maybe there'd be a part of their like their lens part where you could see their eye where it'd be broken, and you could see like a zombie version of that. Would be pretty sweet. I think they should do that at some point if they haven't done it already, because I'm sure the merchandise, there's a billion of these different kind of things. Anyways, I'm sorry for going on and tangenting and whatever, but wouldn't be that a cool idea? So we have Tommy that gets to the Zeo crystals, gets back to Kat just in time like as if she's like a phone that you're like seeing the battery getting charged, and like Kat is getting pretty close to getting full blown evil. So Tommy goes on and uses Zeo crystals to zap all the reviving thing, reviving machine, so that way it reverses that process. And so Tommy grabs Kat and is tell like Rita and Zed, it's like, hey, like I think you have something of ours. And so he takes the Falcon Sword, and so both Kat and Tommy leave off, and there's actually some pretty good interactions between both Rita and Zed and Tommy and Kat here. But let's go on back into now. Tommy and Kat make their way back with the Falcon Zord, and so we have the Power Rangers that, of course, are in the Ninja Zord, and we have, I think, Billy, who states that the Shogun Zord is to now be fully charged, so that way they can now have two Zords out there. So I think this is where we have the Megazord go on and like punch up Globber, Blue Globber, and we were to think that like, oh, like the Globber is now defeated, and he just pops right back up, and he now is a showcase that he has these ninja like pieces all over his bate. So we now have Master Vile that is with Ninjor, and they are like outside, like kind of watching the fight, and Ninjor is in chains, so that way when the Power Rangers are to see that they are going to slice up Blue Globber, that Ninjor ends up feeling the impact. And they're like, wait a minute, like, there's Ninjor, and he's hurt, and he's getting even more hurt, because every time that we're smacking up this Blue Globber, Ninjor is getting hurt. So we realize that the Power Rangers cannot go on and do any impact whatsoever to the Blue Globber, so the Blue Globber takes his Ninjor sword and starts slicing up the Power Rangers into their Zords to have them all fall out of their Zords, and we have them fall into this ground, and so we have everybody that's just kind of ticked off because they have technically lost, and we have like Rocky who's holding onto this fence because he's upset. So we have the Blue Globber that's like, oh, no, like, I want to go on, and I want me some more of that. So we have the Blue Globber that is to go back down to normal size, and is to go after the Power Rangers and try to drain them as while Monster Vile is watching on. So the Blue Globber goes on to absorb the Power Rangers, and Billy has to explain that, like, they're draining, he's draining their energy. So we then have the Power Rangers that go into metallic armor, and the Blue Globber just absorbs that too. So we then realize that the Power Rangers need to go back to the command center, and we have the Blue Globber that is to be very upset that they had left, because he's like, oh no, like, Monster Vile is going to be very mad at me because I didn't completely wipe out the Power Rangers. So, but instead it seems we have Monster Vile that is, like, happy as a clam. So we even have to the point where Monster Vile is going to the juice bar, or whatever equivalent of the juice bar is now with all of these seasons, I don't remember anymore. So we have Monster Vile going and talking to Ernie and Bulk and Skull, who have grab their saddles and toss them on the ground. We have Monster Vile grabbing Bulk and stating that uh, that they are going to go on and put on a party. Ernie was talking to Bulk and Skull and asking them why were they here because there was a monster alert. And so we forcibly have Ernie, Bulk, and Skull who are starting to dance with all these monsters around. So we have the Power Rangers back at the command center, and we have Adam mentioning that his legs are jelly, and because Adam's legs are getting really jelly. And so they're talking about the energy drain and how it's really affecting them. And so they watch on in the viewing globe as the monsters are partying. And so Tommy ends up stating, it's like, well, Master Vile, has he really won? And then, of course, we end credits and we end up doing some blooper reels. And we, of course, have Tommy that states, like, Master Vile, like, has he really won? Like, you decide. So it's like the Jason Todd thing. It's like, hey guys, tune in next week to see if the Power Rangers have lost or Master Vile has won. Go on and put your votes in, and we'll calculate them and see if Master Vile wins next week. So the following episode, we have the Power Rangers that are getting a power grid recharge to give them more energy so that way they can continue to fight on. So we now queue up Master Vile having this party, and we're just seeing an Easter egg of monsters here. And so the first real line that is really delivered here is to really be from Dischorda, who goes on and is to kind of get this waiter to want to give her this give this monster this drink. She, of course, is sitting alongside Incicerator, who, of course, has this he basically looks like Jabba the Hutt with like another face where his mouth should be, weirdly enough. And we also have the Invenusible Fly Trap. They're all sitting next together, they're all complaining, they all want their orders, so on and so forth. We also have a number of other monsters, like the Sea Monster, that has all the eyes in his coat. We also have the Robo Goat in the background. We have the Oysterizer. We have the Vampirus, who's like, you kind of barely see him, but he's still there. And there's also certain monsters that I haven't really seen episodes of that, of course, are to be put together here. So when the blue Globber had Ninjor's power, he, of course, was to be called the Ninja Globber. And he goes through another evolution through these episodes. And the third one will be the Ranger Globber. Very weird, I get that. So we go on to have Master Vile that is to now state to all the humans that are now at this juice bar and they're dancing till they drop. We have Master Vile stating that he is a landlord to planet Earth, and he wants all the humans to leave because he wants to destroy their planet. So we have Tommy, Cat, and Rocky now leaving the command center to try and go on and see what's going on, trying to do some investigative work. So we have Tommy, Cat, and Rocky going over to Bulk and Skull because these three characters don't have enough power to fight against this threat anyways. So Tommy, Cat, and Rocky are talking to Bulk and Bulk and Skull are asking, where are the Power Rangers? Like, have you seen them? And the three of these characters are saying, no, like, I'm sorry. So Bulk and Skull are stating that they're dancing till they drop, and so all of a sudden the Tengu Warriors grab onto Bulk and Skull and tell them to start dancing again. So we all of a sudden have Goldar that arrives behind Tommy, Cat, and Rocky, and I was immediately thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, like, how can Tommy, Cat, and Rocky go into this place without anybody knowing who they are, and then boom, there's Goldar. I'm like, oh, okay, good writing for once. Like, I was thinking that I was gonna have a conundrum here, or I was gonna really have a problem with this writing. So we of course have the Power Rangers that then end up needing to find out that their Megazords are in N51. They have to go to the command center to find that out. So we have the Rangers that have to go on and go to N51 to try to retrieve the Neo or the Zeo crystals from Master Vile's grasp. So we have the Power Rangers that have to teleport all the way to N51. So we come to find that once they get to the Zord that has the Zeo Crystal, because the Zeo Crystal is in the engine of the Megazord, because Cat was state that they were leaving the Zeo Crystal into this Zord while they were to go on and fight off the Ninja Blobber. So we have Billy that goes on to blast in one of the Zords because he had made this certain doorway so that way they can get into the Zord, but come to find out he cannot blast it well enough by himself, so he has all the other Power Rangers go on and help blast this door also, and it works. So we go on to have the Power Rangers who go up these or go up this ladder to then find the engine, and they get around the crystal and they end up doing the same thing like they did in the movie, where they're going on and doing this again, where they're touching hands, and so they end up using their powers to go on and get the crystal to kind of stop being connected to Master Vile, and so then they realize that they can go back to Earth and have all the Zords kind of meet them there. So we have Master Vile that goes on and is to state now like he is ready for the main course, and he's going to destroy like everywhere. Like he's going to destroy everyone. He's going to just destroy Earth and annihilate it. And all of a sudden it seems that Master Vile doesn't have enough power, and so he's like, huh? So we have Lord Zed that needs to figure out why this is going on, and he immediately realizes that the Power Rangers have teleported back to Earth, so it's like, oh, like the Power Rangers had stopped all this. So we have the Blobber, who is now like the big massive Blobber. So we have all the Zords that are now raring to go, fully charged, and we of course have the Blobber that changes into the Ranger Blobber. So we have, of course, that the Blobber is too powerful, so we have Alpha that is to try and figure out how to make the Blobber weaker, the Blue Blobber. The Blue Globber. My bad. So Alpha decides that he is going to try and reverse this whole eternal darkness thing, this whole eclipse, and so they reverse what's going on here to turn it in daylight. So we seem as the Globber is to start to weaken. We have Ninjor who is to not get so hurt, and then he of course goes on to want to fight against Master Vile. And so we have a showdown between both Master Vile and Ninjor. So we have the Shogun Blade that goes on and wipes out the Blobber or the Globber, the Blue Globber, and we have Ninjor that also does this kind of weird, like, Shadouken, like, off of his chest, like this blast thing. I don't know what it's called. Maybe it's like a ninja blast. I don't know. He didn't state what it was. He didn't say, like, hey, this is me blasting thing. Whatever. He didn't state anything. So if you know the name of that, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, like I'll definitely know that in the future if I am to see another Ninja episode. So we of course have Master Vile that goes on and technically like surrenders, kind of backpedals. He realizes that like, hey, like I'm gonna come back at some point soon because we do have the Megazords that go on and try to attack Master Vile, but that doesn't really do anything. He's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave then, but I'll come back. So we have Vile go on, and he's talking to Rita and Zed, and so Vile is to kind of again state that he's like, well, hey, like Rita and Zed have lost so many times, I've only lost this once, so like it's fine that I lose once, but I won't lose again. So we have Vile that gets on his space skull and just spaces his way off. So the next thing we see is that the Power Rangers are going on back at that uh, that national retreat or that national week horse track thing. So we have the Power Rangers that are all now on these horses, and Bulk and Skull and Stone are now on these horses, and we have them all bizarrely needing to gallop. So Skull wanted nothing to do with galloping before, and Stone was like, oh, no, no, no. Like, if they're gonna gallop, then we're gonna gallop. So we go on and have all the Power Rangers going on and galloping, and that's how this story ends. So, with that said, let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I forgot about, anything that I should have covered and I didn't. I apologize for that little mix-up of Tommy and Cax. I figured there would be something that I probably stated too early, or there would probably be a number of things of which that I had forgotten. But let me know in the comments below how you felt about these episodes, but I'm going to try to get the heck out of here so I can go on and either try to get some sleep or possibly try to cover one more thing for the day. So bye, everybody. Bye, buddy.